Wait, Hold Up What? A podcast from the women behind Eliminate Girl Hate. Stories are the foundation of progress, and for too long, the voices of women and marginalized communities have been ignored or silenced. At Wait, Hold Up What? We're reclaiming space to share the struggles, triumphs, fears, and joy that shapes our lives. Join us as we explore the intersections of identity, equity, and empowerment, offering education, support, and a little inspiration along the way. Whether it's breaking barriers, celebrating wins, or tackling the tough stuff, this is a space for everyone to feel seen, heard, and uplifted. We invite you all to join the conversation and help us explore ways to eliminate girl hate together. Can a bra help change the trajectory of a girl's life? Did you know that nationally, only 20% of girls engage in at least 60 minutes of daily physical activity, a lower rate than boys? Or that girls' participation in sports drops off significantly from the ages of 10 to 17? Wait, hold up, what? Yeah. Some of the barriers that contribute to this include lack of financial means, lack of role models, dropping body confidence, and concerns about body changes, including breast development and the need for a sports bra. The simple intervention of a sports bra, along with the normalization of body development, can change the trajectory of a girl's relationship with body movement for her whole life. You heard that right, her whole life. Every girl deserves to feel comfortable and confident in her own body. And that's why Bras for Girls partners with more than 25 athletic brands and donors just like you to distribute new, high-quality sports bras and breast development booklets to girls in need, ranging from the age of 8 to 18. Let's get girls in well-fitting sports bras right when they need them the most. Girls plus sports equals a beautiful world. You can donate to Bras for Girls today at brasforgirls.org. And as a side note, Eliminate Girl Hate has partnered with brasforgirls.org and will be donating a proceed of all merchandise sales to helping girls get in the bras that they need and keep them in sports. You can help by shopping the Eliminate Girl Hate store today. Did you know that 80% of the world's purchases are influenced and made by women? Or that 90% of product development, manufacturing, and corporate leadership is led by men? I don't know about you, but that seems like some funky, disconnected math. This disconnect means large segments of the population are not getting their needs met because the products being made never even asked us what problems we needed to solve. Instead, companies use a pink it and shrink it philosophy. Not familiar? I bet you are. You know it. Take a man's product, make it smaller, paint it pink, sell it for 25% more. Then, when the products fail to make a dent in the market or to sell rapidly, they say things like, the market wasn't ready. Or, we were so sure it was going to work, I wonder what happened. And then they move on. I'm here to tell you, the market is most definitely ready. But the market is savvy. And putting some paint and saying it was designed for us is a slap in the face. We have real needs, and we're not settling for anything less than real solutions. If this sounds familiar to you and your business, then it's time to connect with Eliminate Girl Hate. We help businesses understand the lucrative consumer segment of women and how to meet their needs in authentic ways. From problem solving, product creation, marketing, and even human resource practices, we help create safe and equitable spaces for the female segment. And these safe spaces increase profit margins, employee retention, and brand loyalty along the way. It's time to start a revolution and meet your consumers where they are. It's time to eliminate girl hate. Check us out, eliminategirlhate.com, and find out how we can help your business today. Hi, everyone, and welcome again to Wait, Hold Up What? I am Dawne, although if you're listening, you probably know that already. And today I have a really fun guest for you. We're continuing in our kind of Women in Wealth series. And so I brought my new friend, Zhou, and we're going to talk about something interesting, and we'll get there in a second. But we met working on or being part of a policy committee for the Women's Foundation of Oregon. We have previously had Libra Ford on here, who is the executive director of that foundation. But I just want to give them a plug because there is a Women's Foundation of in pretty much every state. It is a nationwide kind of organization, and it's a really interesting way if you're kind of trying to figure out how to dip your toe into understanding issues and things that face women in your local community. It's a really good organization to kind of get in, attend some meetings or some functions. And so that's my little plug for them. And you and I met there, and you are working on a project with regards to pay transparency. And so first, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're so happy to have you.
Yeah, I love that plug. That's how I really started get into the legislation space, which I feel we're going to talk about later.
Yes.
Is to connect with Women's Foundation of Oregon and Libra Ford and the team. So we can chat more about that later, how the pay transparency legislation goes in Oregon.
I love it.
But it's very relevant to Women's Foundation of Oregon's work as well.
Yeah. And for here, I don't know if this is all women's foundations, but the Women's Foundation of Oregon is really focused on a project or a goal of gender justice. And for me in the work that I do, that was really enlightening and exciting. And then talking about pay transparency. So when I saw your face on there and I heard what you were doing, I got very excited and did my little, now I'm all of a sudden a networker. And so I reach out to people and I say, hey, let's just talk. And we realized we had a lot of commonalities in how we look at the world and what we want for the world. And so, and I got to learn a little bit about you and who you are and how you got into this work. And so I think that's a really good place to start is, a little bit about your journey. So you are originally from
China.
What part of China?
Yeah,
and what part of China?
Yeah,
Okay,
Guilin, a small-ish city in South China. Yeah.
Okay. And how old were you when you came to the U.S. for the first time?
22.
Okay. And it was for educational purposes, correct?
Yes, I went to grad school in the U.S. Yeah.
And what were you coming here to study?
It was mass communications. My college degree from China was journalism and communications. So when I went to grad school in the US, I chose mass communications. Yeah.
And what, at the time, 22-year-old you, what did you think you were going to do with mass communications?
I had no clue. I was passionate about journalism. That's why I picked it when I was in China. But I also, I was maybe a wuss because of the restrictions of journalism in China. And I didn't really want to risk my life doing it. So I was like, well, I guess I'll just go abroad and study more. And I realized because English it's not my first language, it would be really difficult for me to compete with speakers who, English is their first language. So I was like, well, it wouldn't make sense to study journalism here. Then what else? So eventually I picked mass communications, which is pretty academic and research focused. I'm actually very grateful for that education experience. It really set the foundation of my work today.
And if I remember correctly, at 22, you didn't necessarily think you were going to stay in the United States.
It was unclear.
Okay.
My goal was just, let's get a degree and then see how things go.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you've been here ever since. So what was the catalyst that said, I think I'm going to stay?
All I wanted to do is to try. I wanted to try and see. I mean, it was probably kind of ego-driven as well. Now I reflect on, 24, 25-year-old Zhou is that I wanted to prove that I deserved to be here. And one of the few ways to prove that is to find a employment sponsorship to get a work visa so that I could stay. So I was like, if I'm worthy, then someone should be willing to sponsor me. So that was kind of like, I just wanted to.
So I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
Fine.
I'm like having this really interesting reaction because this country is going through a lot when it comes to immigration right now.
Mhm,
And this idea, for many, many years, there's something called the American dream.
mhm,
And Americans kind of subscribe to it. But as we know, people from other countries subscribe to it. But when I think about China, in my limited experience, I have not been there,
mhm,
but I think of China as this place where if you're going to prove yourself,
mm.
I mean, that's a tough place to do it.
Yeah, it is challenging. Yeah, it has
So,
been.
what was there a difference in how you could prove yourself here versus there? And was the quote unquote American dream kind of folklore part of that?
That's a really good question. I think about that still, like 15 years later or so. In China, you could. So my background is like middle class, right? Like I
Mm.
was comfortable growing up. I didn't have to worry about where my meal would be next day. So that's definitely a privilege.
Sure.
But in order to make it in China, you need to know people. Like in Chinese, it's guanxi. It's
Yeah.
like your 人脉. It's like relationships, connections, who you
Yeah.
know there. The thing is, with a journalism background, I actually didn't have that connection. My whole family was like STEM, like engineers. See
Yeah.
what? Like I couldn't really have really gone into the space without probably working extra hard. I will never know now, but at the time, I really didn't think I had the guanxi I would need.
Okay.
And coming to the US, the myth of the American dream, now that we learn more about it, is that I thought I wouldn't need that guanxi. I wouldn't need those connections, those very intricate or complicated relations in order to make it. I thought if I
Yeah.
just do my job, keep my head down, work hard, prove myself once again, then someone will see me and I'll be
Yeah.
able to make it. So that was
Yeah.
the mentality. Yeah.
And that is really part of that folklore. As somebody who is born and raised here, I really felt the same way. And I think a lot of people in my generation did because there was this hustle mentality that was if you hustle, if you don't complain and you just show up, you're going to get somewhere because we really like
Mhm.
hustle. And we really built this culture around what I refer to as the glorification of busy,
Mhm. Yep.
right? We glorified being busy, we glorified the hustle, we acted as if it was somehow a reflection of you being this incredible person
Mhm.
that you would put up with all of that
Mhm.
and waste your life away for what? And it was some
Mhm.
magical ring you were going to get at the end of the
Yeah.
day. And I think that's what we're seeing in our culture now is a disillusionment with that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I definitely had that in me, the American dream myth, and I went for it. And for better or worse, it took me a long time. But
Sure.
yeah, like right now, I am reflecting regularly on, how far this has gone, like where I am now, from the
Yeah.
beginning and then now it's been 15 years.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think too, a lot of people, I think especially in relationship to an like an immigrant experience,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
That people in this country are like, how dare you complain about this country when your country X, Y, and Z, right?
Right.
So it could be worse, it could be better. And I've always hated that argument
Mhm.
because it would seem to me like someone who was moving here because they saw a better opportunity and a better life and they believed in the promise that we said
Mhm.
that once they get here and realize that promise has some holes in it
Right.
and they express that should be what we listen to because they know what it looks like to not have that.
Mm.
So I'm always kind of baffled by people's response in relation to that. So you go to school, you decide,
Mhm.
let's see if I'm worthy,
Mhm.
right? let's see if I got what we guanxi for us, it's like mojo, right? Like,
Oh, yeah.
let's see
Okay,
if I've
yeah.
got the mojo
Yeah,
to
yeah,
do
yeah.
something.
Mhm.
And so you go out and look for work. And what type of industry did you find yourself in?
Very much in businesses that have or had international kind of affairs or like events. So I started in the compliance industry. I worked for a company that would have oversee trainings and conferences for manufacturers, which, interestingly, right now, manufacture is interesting topic.
Yes, it is.
But they have had manufacturing kind of partners in Asia and in China. So because of my language skill, bilingual, actually, I speak Cantonese as well. So Mandarin,
Okay.
Cantonese, and English. Because of my language skill and also my communications background, I was hired by this compliance company as their kind of communications and marketing person, just because I was able to do bilingual marketing communications.
Okay.
And I did go to China for work because of their compliance needs and conference needs. So that's how I started. And again, thanks to my language skill. And then I moved on to the tech industry, which also was thanks to my language skill, because the tech industry very much has a lot to do with overseas
Of
businesses
course.
and partnerships, etc. Yeah.
So you get into not only mass communications, but actually two very complicated styles of industry, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
With a lot of just nuance to them.
Yeah.
At how long into working would you say that you felt either I'm getting somewhere here,
Mm.
like this is working, or ha, I'm worthy. I did it.
That's a very good question.
Or did you ever?
And my feeling is that I never stopped trying to prove myself.
Mhm.
Like when I worked in the compliance industry, everyone was very nice. At the same time, I was paid very little.
Mhm.
And because I needed visa sponsorship, I didn't complain. And also because we had partners in Asia like India and China, etc., and Vietnam, I believe too. I had to work evening hours. So
Yeah.
like I will, and it was before COVID, right? So for a long time, I went to the office every day, like at 9, and then do my work in the US office. And then oftentimes after 5, I find myself just continues to work because of our partners overseas. So it wasn't very kind of equitable. Now I understand the term equity
Mhm.
and being equitable or not. It wasn't equitable compared to, how much money I was making and how many hours I was working. Um,
Did you enjoy it?
at first, yes, because it felt
Mhm.
like a community for the first time for me. Because what do I know? I had lived in the US for 3 years. I felt very fortunate. I landed a job with sponsorship. People enjoyed working with me, and I thought I had friends. I mean, I still believe I did have friends. I think the very interesting aspect of that industry is in compliance, this specific area is people who provide compliance service usually are middle class white people, right, with industry knowledge. And then they go to Asia, other countries that are like usually not as elite or lower income, etc. So it feels like they are there to preach. And I feel like I was part of it. And most of my friends and colleagues were white. So it felt like I did feel, I maybe was lucky because a lot of people from communications background, if they are not from the US, they will have a really hard time finding a job. So I did
Mhm.
consider myself fortunate and was like, oh yeah, maybe I am making it, etc. But
Did you not, sorry to interrupt you, but I can see the lucky part,
definitely.
but did you not feel that you had done the work to get there?
Oh yeah, totally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I tried so hard. Like, Yeah. I mean, I always appreciate luck. I think without luck, like the fact that I'm alive today is very much thanks to luck from many, many aspects. But
Yeah.
I worked really hard.
But you also saw that you brought something to the table.
A lot. I mean,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, the
Okay.
language part, the communications part, the culture part, like be respectful and how to interact with local people, etc.
And in China, my guess, making an assumption, speaking up in the workplace against something that maybe didn't feel right is probably not culturally.
Yeah, it's not common. It wasn't common.
Yeah.
Right now, I don't know, but it wasn't common. Yeah.
Okay. And at a certain point in this career, obviously you express, look, most of my colleagues were white, likely male, a little bit older. So there's a certain point in the career where you not only you're understanding that you are an immigrant in this experience, so you're othered, but you also start to realize there's an otherness in your gender.
Yes and no. The gender part, I felt more acutely after I moved to the tech industry.
Interesting.
Yeah, the otherness, yes, I did feel that in the first couple years working in the compliance industry, but the gender part really started to show after moving into the tech industry.
And can you remember what were some of the first signs of that? Like what did you feel or see?
You should smile more.
I love the way or the face you made while you said that.
Yeah. Because, and I mean, it was written down. Like I had receipts, but of course I left the company, so they probably destroyed all my emails. But
it was in your reviews.
Yeah. It's like you could smile more.
Wow.
And also people would say you are bubbly.
Okay.
It's like I'm 30-year-old woman. Like, what do you mean you're bubbly? That's just
Well, also I'm bubbly, but I should smile more. Those seem opposite.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And also I mean, if we're talking about the gender part, really is a combination of me as a Chinese woman is that I look younger than I actually am. And even after years in the industry, whenever I go to a business setting, a business event, they always assume I'm the junior, never the senior. So, yeah. So I'm always this little girl. Yeah. It was very weird. It was like, I don't even know how to properly make it when it comes to, gender, race, and immigrant status and ageism, all those combined, very intersectional. So it just feels like I was never taken seriously in the industry. And everywhere I go, they treated me like a very young, innocent, I don't know what I'm doing kind of woman.
And at some point, does that make you question your career choice?
Definitely. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I remember one time in Vegas at a technology show, I just felt so isolated because those hotels, pretty terrible.
Yeah. I've been to many of them. Yes.
So it was a work travel, right? And I just one night I woke up and I just felt so kind of like existential dread. I was like, why am I doing this? Like, is this my job?
Yeah.
I felt it.
And what did you do with the feeling?
Swallowed it. What are you gonna do? I'm an immigrant. I'm on a work visa. I mean, it has a lot to do with identity and then our relationship with money and status.
Now, did you ever consider, I got what I needed from the US, let me go back to China and see what I can do now that I've got all this global experience, if you will, these degrees. Did you consider it?
I did, especially in 2019. 2019, it was the time when I had to renew my work visa again, and I was green card pending. So I was in the middle of my green card, which is the permanent residency in the US process. And because I was in the middle of applying for a green card, I had to renew my work visa. And in that year, I was challenged to basically they wanted to deport me because they questioned the legitimacy of my work, my job, and my visa status.
And that was a big 2017 through 2019 because of the administration that came in. There was a lot around immigration and a lot of uncertainty in immigration as a whole at that time.
Yeah, definitely. But what was unique about my case was, again, I was doing everything by book, right? Like I follow the rules. So hopefully, if listeners are listening to this, hopefully that had some teaching to today's situation.
Sure.
I was so shocked by the news when my lawyer contacted me, like, we need to do something different to prevent you, from getting kicked out. So it was a shock. So because of that, I did give it some thought about, returning to China or going to a different place and start over again.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know if it was my ego or stubbornness. I thought I deserved to be here. And I was like, no, why? Like, why am I supposed to go? Like, I didn't do anything wrong. I did everything by book and beyond, right? Like above and beyond, basically.
Course.
So I did my best to work with my lawyer and the company at the time and was able to stay. But yeah, for a short period of time, I did consider that.
And so you're staying, your citizenship would in whatever form is renewed. This idea of moving jobs when you are on a work visa is just not easy. And I don't think people fully understand that.
No.
It's hard to continue to stay in a country and move, so it's easy for a company to somewhat take advantage of that, even if they're well-meaning.
I mean, if they are well-meaning.
I was trying to be hopeful. But at some point, something changed for you.
Yeah. It was actually before 2019. It was like 2018 or something. I had already felt like, okay, because like the background is they had to prove that, not they had to, I had to prove my worthiness, right? Like on paper and at work. Otherwise, I wouldn't have the sponsorship. So my idea was to keep doing the best I could. And I would be proved, like people will see me once again. And then my immigration status would be protected because the company would have my back, right?
Yeah.
But over the years, every time I go into my boss office or the business owner's office, and especially during like performance review, I would be like, this is the kind of raise I would like to have. And I would give like a presentation, like a document to list what I have accomplished, blah, 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 giving examples. And the answer was always no. And sometimes it's like, well, we would love to get you there, but you are just not there. It's like this kind of gaslighting,
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we would love for you to make that much money, but just you're not that good, so we can't. So that's the underlying message. Like you're just not there.
Yeah.
And then sometimes
wait, did they though tell you, but here's what you can do to get there?
No.
Okay.
No.
I would have assumed that. Okay.
No, they would be like, go work with a manager or something like that. Or the thing is, at the time, I was already doing more than one person's job. But but everyone is like that, right? Especially women and people of color. So there were also times when I would ask again, they would be like, well, we're already sponsoring your visa.
They hold it against you.
Yeah, like they didn't say that, but they would be like,
Yeah.
"Well, we're sponsoring your visa." I was like, "Okay."
Mhm.
And one time, so like it's all the no's, right? But in different versions. And one
Yeah.
time was, well, if you are not happy here, you're welcome to find a new job. I
Mm.
mean, I have a visa here. I wouldn't be able to find a job. Like,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
very hard for me. And still
Yeah.
said that to my face and go find a new job.
So I want to somewhat stop here just for the audience because we talk a lot about like women in careers and women in work and how do you advocate for yourself? How do you get sponsors? And you just described doing all of the right things.
Mhm.
You showed your wins, you showed where you were successful because a lot of times, I've managed a lot of people and people will come to me and they'll ask for a raise.
Mm.
Why do you think you need a raise? Well, it's expensive to live. And I need this, or I'm going to get married, or whatever. And I politely started saying, I get it. That would mean a lot of money, but you need to go back to your desk
Mhm.
and come back and tell me how you earned a
Mhm.
raise. Now, that doesn't mean I didn't think they deserved one,
Mhm.
but I wanted to be able to help them learn how to do the process correctly.
Mhm.
Because while I'm a big softie,
Mm.
most people are not,
Mhm.
right? The company is looking out for the bottom
Yeah.
line. And so you really have to make a
Yeah.
point that you are better off keeping me than losing me. And you did all of that
I
right.
did.
But, you and I have talked a lot about intersectionality
Mhm.
and how intersectionality complicates things.
Mhm.
And for the listener who doesn't know, intersectionality is anytime you combine something.
Mhm.
So you're a woman, you're already kind of given this lower or less opportunity.
Mhm.
But if you combine that with being a person of color,
Mhm.
it is maximized. If you combine that with being, on the LGBTQ spectrum,
Mhm.
right, then it gets magnified again.
Mhm.
If you're overweight, it gets magnified.
Mhm.
If you dress a certain way, and all of these intersectionalities take the stats we see
Mhm.
that are about white women
Mhm.
and they intensifies the disparity.
Yeah.
And your example is that because I don't think a lot of people they would think person of color, but they might not have thought about immigration
Right.
because, and this is such a crude way to say it, but the accent is
Yeah.
the other
Oh,
intersectionality. Because
definitely.
otherwise you would have just been a woman of color.
Yeah.
But no, we're going to add to it that you're really from another country.
Mhm.
Okay, so I have global experience. Look at how lucky you
I
are.
know.
But that's not the way they look at
No.
it. And so
Yeah.
I think that's an important distinction to pull out
Mhm.
because there's like multiple reasons that they're gaslighting you
Mhm.
and multiple ways that they're doing it.
Mhm.
And so you could read all the books you want.
Mhm.
How are you going to combat each of those new things
Mhm.
and know that they're happening? Right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that really kind of also touches on the things we talk about is the gender pay gap,
Yeah.
which really, has a lot to do with our conversation on women and wealth today is if you are a woman, you are making about 84 cents to a dollar compared to a man. But if you are a woman of color, if you are, if you are a caretaker, if you are older, if you have disability, all those layers add up,
Yes.
money's gone.
Yes.
So yeah, so that very much addressed the intersectionality in it. Yeah.
And so all this is happening. And I always like to say that these things, people often are like, what is the thing? What is the thing that broke the camel's back and changed your life? And you were like, I'm going to fight for women.
Yeah.
But
Gosh.
even I think it's a slow trickle.
Yeah, yeah. But then
It's
there is a
these like
tipping
tiny,
point.
tiny cuts
Yeah,
that keep happening and keep happening. And the first cut, you're like, it's obnoxious,
yeah.
but I can deal with it.
Mhm.
But suddenly you've got cuts all over your body. You're bleeding everywhere. You're staining the furniture. What are you supposed to do?
Right. Right.
So all these cuts happen to you.
Mhm.
Do you remember the moment you said, okay, I got to do something about this?
Yeah. So like during the process, like in 2019, when I tried to make a case for myself and stay here, it was an accident. By accident, I was sent. I didn't ask for it. I didn't acquire it. I didn't inquire it. By accident, during the process, I was sent a copy of everyone's payroll.
The same thing happened to me.
Jeez, I know.
Yes.
I mean, and it wasn't just 1 year, 2018, right? Because it's 2019. So I was sent people's payroll for like up to 3 years prior. So I was just like, okay. So I saw all the numbers and one particular, it wasn't even me because I knew I wasn't making much money at that point because of my status. And I saw two colleagues. I'm not gonna call out who
Of course.
who they are, whatever. But one is making significantly less than the other.
Yeah.
And I was just, we're not even talking about 10K or 20K. And I was just like, is this real? I was just like stunned.
Yeah.
That was when I was like, yep, I'm going to do something. When someday, if I'm able to stay, if I can make it out, I will make it my thing.
Okay. And you made it out.
I did. And those numbers, they are always in my head.
Yes.
So now we're talking how transparency is so important.
So it's interesting because, this has happened differently, but twice to me in my career, where one was on a trip, a work trip. People tend to imbibe, drink a little. I've never been a huge drinker, but at work I was very, very stealthy about it may look like I'm drinking all night, but I never was. Because I can't, I just was never that person and I know myself. So I'm like, and every single man on the team told me how much they made.
How much did you drink?
Yes. And the smallest difference was $50,000.
Okay.
And then in another job, the boss sent an email and I was on the list. And it had every single person in the entire department's salary and their bonuses. And I got an email an hour later that said, hey, I sent an email accidentally. Don't read it. Delete it.
I got the same message.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, first of all, I've already read it. I am on top of my business, so I read my emails. I've already read it, and I already know. And on top of that, I will also say, because I have managed people for many years, I know my team's salaries. And so I often saw the discrepancies and worked to get the female colleagues up, but had to work within a system to do it. I couldn't say, hey, the man makes this much, the girl makes, I just said man and girl. Ugh, gross. The man makes this much, the woman makes this much. How do I get her up? And they're like, well, that has nothing to do with it. Because they can't say that that's what it is. So I had to figure out ways to promote people continually to get them up just to the base.
I see.
And look, I don't want applause for that, but not every boss is going to do that.
No.
And you have to make sure that the employee does good work and you've got to be able to back yourself up, but not every boss is going to do that. And so the system stays.
Right.
So you break free, you have these numbers in your head. What do you decide to do?
I was very, again, gonna say fortunate, because I am. I finally got my green card 3 years later. So 2022, I got my green card. And the winter before, winter 2021, I had decided to do my little research on how pay transparency or the lack of it impact people's income. So I did a little independent research, small community-based, etc. And I was able to get some basic information. So I have that in hand. And then in 2022, a few months after I started my own practice, intersectional group, I decided to take it more seriously. So I really wanted to understand the pay transparency or the lack of what kind of discrepancy or disparity it's causing at workplace.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing I did was research because I knew I need data. Otherwise, I'm just talking.
And you're a data person, I'm going to guess.
I like data. Like I'm
Yeah.
not good at math, but I enjoy understanding data.
Same.
Yeah. So I worked with a couple folks. One is a very good data analyst, and another one is a designer. So because we need to create these kinds of reports and looking good. So the three of us created a pay transparency report. The first year I started my own business, and we all learned like women and people of color really get undercut because of the lack of pay transparency. So we continue to do this kind of research-based, data-based project, or we call them pay transparency reports, for 3 years in a row. So last year, we were able to release our 2024 pay transparency report, which is really based on personal experience. We were able to share people's personal stories on pay transparency and their relationship with it and how it impacted their salary and their teamwork, So
Yeah.
that's kind of like take on that I started to do after deciding, okay, I need to do something about it and learn from data and share what I learned with my community and hopefully a bigger audience. And then around that time, 2021, 2022, I started to hear about legislation movements in the country. So like states like, New York and then Colorado and Maryland, Vermont over the years, California, Washington State, Hawaii, Washington, D.C. All these places are or were passing legislations on pay transparency and implementing them.
So let me stop you. So first of all, the concept of pay transparency as a rule of law or governing guidance is owned by the states, not federal, or is there an opportunity for both?
I think there's an opportunity for both. Like right now, if you are a federal worker and if you are not fired yet, then your salary information is actually transparent. If you work in the like say a nonprofit or public sector, for example, I'm not 100% sure about this, but I'm fairly certain if you worked for TriMet in Portland, then your salary information is likely to be public information. So in other words, transparent. So it depends.
And I do know at the very least the ranges are.
Yeah.
Like for the bands and stuff like this. The other question I have before you continue is there's pay transparency. So when these things happen to me, all of a sudden there started to be corporate conversations about how unprofessional it was to share your salary with anybody else in the office.
Of course.
And I always assumed that it was illegal for a company to prevent us from talking about that. But it is not.
It's not.
Okay.
It's very legal and very normal to talk about salary. Like your company, if a company says you are not allowed to discuss it, it's actually, you should look it up. Like
that's what I assumed too.
Yeah, like people
they can't tell me to do that.
I mean, freedom of speech, even though that's kind of a joke right now, but yeah, people should be able to talk about their salary and exchange information.
Do you know if in this, because pay transparency, the conversation has been around a while. Do you know, and it's okay if you don't, it came to me in this moment. Do you know of people who have gotten in trouble for sharing salary and then sued?
I don't. Got into trouble. What do you mean? You retaliated?
Yeah, like got fired because they shared their salary with somebody. And then they went and said, I don't think that's legal, so I'm going to sue you.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Not in my experience or what I know of. I don't think there is a legal ground for that. I guess people can get fired for whatever reason, and that's
'Cause it's at
another
will.
that's another topic. But I don't think it would be very easy to sue an employee because they disclosed salary information or talked about it.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be that practical, I don't think.
So why does pay, with the data that you have, why does pay transparency matter?
Because without transparency, we can't have real equity.
Put more words on that.
Yeah,
if you will.
because say you and I are co-workers and our experiences are similar, our responsibilities are similar, and we want to talk about, is this pay equitable? So, but without knowing, we will never be able to say this is equitable or not, especially if we are looking at the bigger picture. Oh, well, yeah, Dawne and Zhou make this much money, but how about Sophia? So then it becomes kind of like a very time-consuming machine where if you want to figure out whether or not you are paid fairly or equitably, you have to do a lot of digging. That's why I think without transparency, there cannot be real equity, especially if it's like a little bigger company or a little bigger, like an industry, when people want to find out, hey, I work for this company, you work for that company who does similar things. But I don't know if I'm making fair money if I don't know how much you are making if we're doing similar jobs.
Yeah, and it's an interesting conversation too, because, when we talk about equity, and obviously DEI right now, oh, how dare you say it? We'll probably get flagged and we won't be in the algorithm, so no one will get to hear this. But oftentimes people, there's two sides to the argument. And there's people that think it doesn't matter, right? And it always baffles me. I don't understand how your eyes can be open and not see how it would matter, but okay, let's play along. Unfortunately, there are a lot of factions in the feminist movement, let's call that. And when Lean In came out, for all the fanfare that it got, and look, I read it, I, kind of took it in, but it really put the onus on women to not change the system, but to manipulate their way in, right? So a lot of the data we got was, well, the reason women don't make as much as men is because they're not asking for as much. They're not negotiating for a raise. So like for me, for the last 20 years, if you have worked for me, I have given you one chance. So when I hire you, I am always hoping you're going to negotiate for salary. And if you don't, I tell you when I hire you, okay, this is the salary they offered you. I'm going to give you X amount more than that. That will never happen with me again unless you negotiate. And I will teach you how to do it as we work together. And that will be part of our one-on-ones, negotiating for whatever it is. That just is a skill you should know. Yeah. Because I don't think that's fair. I don't think we should negotiate.
We shouldn't have to.
We shouldn't have to, right? But I'm trying to figure out how to right-size a system that is what it is. And what I love about what you're doing is you're like, no, screw that. Let's just change the law so that the system is operating correctly for everyone.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. The idea of passing a law for Oregon really is because when I saw other states, just over time, they're like, oh, we have another one. Oh, we have another one. Yeah. And I was like, why not Oregon?
I mean, we seem like the type of state that would be down for that.
That was part of the question too. I was like, Oregon should have this like long time ago. So I was like, let me look into this. That's when, at the beginning, you gave a shout out to Women's Foundation of Oregon. That's when I figured out I forgot how I found their contacts, but I was able to reach out to Libra Ford and the team in 2023, early 2023. And I was like, look, I want this to happen for Oregon to have a patron saint law. How do I do that? Because I was like, I know nothing. Like, what? I don't know how to pass a law. So they graciously welcomed me in, and I've been part of their policy committee for just since then, 2023. So yeah, I was able to learn, how to work with people in the policy space, even if not directly, but on advocacy level. You just keep talking about it. You just keep reaching out to lawmakers, try to have a conversation, or work with organizations that work with policymakers. There are different ways to talk to them. So yeah, eventually, and this is not to my credit. Like I've been making my efforts, but for this year's legislation session, again, thanks to fortune, I still feel fortunate, is that we do have two lawmakers who sponsored a pay transparency bill, Representative Nelson and Senator Jama. So they introduced a pay transparency law, HB 2746, this year. And this time we are looking to have a chance to pass the law. And I had the opportunity to testify, to support the legislation. So this is definitely not to say I made it happen. Like, it's like many moving pieces, they come together.
So I get that.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. And I think that's amazing because I don't believe that anything happens without community.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
It just doesn't.
Yeah.
That being said, I find that one of the differences that I see commonly in men and women doing advocacy work is this lack of acceptance that were it not for you pushing the little train along, it wouldn't get there. Yes, other people helped, but your contribution is super significant to that. And to own that and be proud of that, and your guanxi, your mojo, your worthiness is so present in that.
Thank you.
And so I want to say thank you because
thank you.
What you're doing impacts me and it impacts everybody in this state.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I want to say is Zhou is very smart. She sounds very smart. She comes across as knowing, and she is. I'm not even saying you sound that way. You are, right? But some people may hear this and think, wow, well, if I knew what she knew and had the degrees and did this, I could do that too. What I have learned about being part of the Women's Foundation of Oregon and being on these policy calls is it's not easy. I don't want to say that, but it is easy to get involved in it. And that all of these things that we see that impact our government, especially at the local level, they start with one person, with one idea, with one thing that they're advocating for, with who's taken their trauma, whatever that is.
Definitely.
Right? And wants to turn it into something. And then what happens is you talk about it passionately and people get inspired by their passion and they're like, hey, me too. I want to get on board this train. And I think people need to know that because we are in dark times, it feels very dark, right?
Yeah.
We've got all of these news about tariffs and a potential recession and the world is going to fall apart and who knows, right? The sky's falling.
Yeah.
The way to change that is us. It is not lawmakers that we rely on. It is people every day going in and saying, I want to help. How do I help?
Yes.
We're in this policy committee. And one of the reasons I joined was because I said, I don't know if that's the committee for my background and experience. And they said, no. That's just it. Yeah. We will teach you.
Yeah.
We will provide guidance and show you. And then you can take what you care about and the teachings we give you and do something about it.
Yeah. 100%.
And they also talk about the people I won't say who because we're nice on this podcast. But there are people that go to those meetings and those hearings every single time just to say, no, we need to continue to have hateful policies.
That's true.
And they go to every single one and they send a letter to every single senator. And the people that are spouting hate and disillusionment, they got a lot of time on their hands.
Yeah, I mean, I'm amazed by how much time they have. Like, I'm not supportive of their actions, but I mean, sometimes I'm impressed.
Yeah, because they're mobilizing, right? And the problem is, the thing is, you can get angry, you can get irate, you can get disillusioned and sad and all of those things. But if you do that, and this is such a, and you continue to do nothing, but make an angry social media post.
Yeah, that it's not going to.
And then the world changes drastically and you say, oh my God, how'd that happen? And for a lot of people, I'm not even trying to guilt people or shame people into anything. But I think we think it's harder than it is. And I am learning that while, yes, there's red tape and steps and things you have to do, there are also people to support that journey, teach that journey, help along that journey, and need help.
Yeah.
So maybe you are not going to be the person that's going to testify.
Right.
Maybe you're scared of public speaking. You don't have time to go to the state capitol. Okay. Can you collect signatures? Can you volunteer one day a month? Can you go to your city planning meeting?
Yeah.
Like, there are ways to get involved. Money is also one, which I hate saying, but unfortunately, that's the way this world works. Donating to places, like, there is such a minuscule amount of money and nonprofits that are dedicated to girls and women. So go support one.
Yeah.
And show up. And if you don't have time, you have money. If you don't have money, you have time. Like, there are ways to do that and showcase what you're doing. And some of them don't take a lot of work. And so someone like you who's taking the burden, it's like, okay, how can we help?
Yeah, I really appreciate that. I think that really puts things into perspective. And I really think, when it comes to activism, nothing's too small. It can be just share a piece of information with your neighbor.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, hey, have you heard of these? Oh,
yeah.
No, but would you like to learn more? There you go. It's like, it can be as small as that.
I have the Equal Rights for All sign for their campaign is in my window, and you can see it from the street. And yesterday I was sitting on my patio for my little afternoon tea. And this woman with her dog walked by and she goes, thank you for that sign. I love it. What is it? And I said, oh, I'm collecting and we just started talking. And if nothing else, it's engagement. We are missing community in the ways that we had when the world was smaller. We've gone digital, we've gone inside, we've gone into the darkness. And the idea is to get outside and start talking to people, getting to know people, hearing their stories, because that's what changes.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
it is personal experience. So for you, for the work you are in right now, HB what?
2746.
2746.
Can't believe I remember a number, but yeah.
What can people do here in Oregon to help? And the second part is, if they don't live in Oregon and they live in a state in which they don't have pay transparency, what is something they could do?
Great question. I think for Oregon at this point, it's already kind of like in decision-making process. So I would recommend people to go to OLIS, OLIS.OregonLegislature.com and look up the bill HB 2746 and then hit subscribe. So you would get some email notification when there is a movement about the bill. And outside of it, I would really encourage people to start talking about your salary experience, how much you are making, like if you are a woman or person of color or people with disability or other, intersectional identities, then you can start sharing notes with each other. And
Yeah.
information is power. We all know that. And
Yeah.
also, if you consider yourself as an ally, say you are male identified or you are a white person, then show up as an ally. And if you learn about or know someone is making less money than you, or if you witness something, then speak up and try to help them get the fair pay people deserve. So that's
Yeah.
for Oregon and probably and definitely also for other communities and states as well. And for what was the other part of the question?
The rest of the country.
The rest of the country is so just pay attention to pay transparency. Every time you use a search engine and search pay transparency law or pay transparency legislation, you will see news. You can also set up alert, like a news alert, and just punching the keywords pay transparency or fair pay or salary transparency and subscribe for like news alert. You'll be able to follow the movements nationwide, see where is passing the law, implementing or violating, or what are the lawsuits happening. Just get informed. And if
Yeah.
you feel compelled to, show up for your coworker, for your loved ones, for people you care about.
It's interesting because as we close out here, I want to go into two of those things. One is, she mentioned OLIS, and I will put these in the show notes so people have links and things to go to.
Yeah.
But every state has transparency on the bills that are being presented.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have the ability to go to your state legislation website and track bills and see what's even on the docket so that you can find ways to support those and push them through.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that until recently.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really good information to have. The other one is, it's a little bit of a anecdote or a story.
Mm-hmm.
This does work. Now, if you are not comfortable sharing your salary with a coworker at your company, okay, I get it. This is a big change management thing. We have shame around it. There's also fear of getting in trouble.
Yeah.
Many, many, many years ago, I was up for a job and interviewing. And I had friends that worked there and had been in a similar role. And they all told me what they made. And they all told me what not to accept less than. So when I went in, and by the way, men and women did this for me.
Nice.
And when I went into the job interview and then the negotiation process, I was ready. I had my numbers. And I always tell people, if you do your research, look, it's not a proven science, but you can go, there's a number of websites you can go and check ranges, right? Like for this type of role with this type of education, all of these types of things. I bet you ChatGPT could even help if you put in the right prompts, right?
Yeah.
Although I don't know if we should do that, but still, there is ways to at least give yourself a range. When people ask you in an application or an interview process what you currently make, do not tell them. It is not their business. Your previous or current job has nothing to do with a new one.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, ask them first and ask for a range.
Mm-hmm.
So say, I was curious. We've talked about the role, but we haven't talked about pay. Can you tell me what the range of pay is? If you ask first, you don't get the awkward question that you're like, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that really helps. And then when you know a range and you're getting into the time period where you're going to talk and negotiate, in your mind, having done all the research, have a low, middle, and high. Right? Because obviously we all want more money. So if we can get the top of the range, great. But that rarely happens. So what's the lowest? What will you not take the job if it goes below? And feel confident. And look, in this job market, that might be hard to do. But as a general rule, it's really good to not go in blind for yourself. When those people did that for me, I did that and I came in. And the problem was they shocked me by offering me $40,000 more than I thought they were going to offer me. And so then I couldn't negotiate because I was like, well, that was above my high. So
That's great.
Right. But if I had prepared for that, I could have still negotiated. And so this idea that you educate yourself as much as you can, talk to people in your industry, even if they're not in your company yet. There are lots of ways to be transparent about pay and bonuses and structures and things of that nature.
Yeah.
Mentors can help with that. People will help with that. And so while it is sad we have to do the work ourselves, until these things happen, make sure that you are advocating for those things and you're having the tough conversations. I think that's important.
Yeah, definitely. That's very, very good advice and great tips. And thank you, Dawne. Like, I feel everyone has the opportunity to make it better for ourselves
Yes.
and other people. And having that agency and having that willingness and courage is really important too. But I really think getting informed is really one of the first steps we can take.
Agreed.
To help each other. And, really, hopefully one day we will all have pay transparency.
Yes.
And life will be a little easier.
So we're going to end, but I always want to make sure that the guest, before they leave, I always say, if the listener, if there's one thing from this whole episode that you hope that they take home with them, what is that?
I think it was actually something you said, Dawne.
Well, I am pretty smart.
Yeah, you are. And you're generous and kind. I just would love to remind listeners that, quoting Dawne's words, the way to change is us. We have the power. And thank you for reminding me. I did put a lot of effort into pushing legislation forward. And I do feel proud of the work we've done in the last few years. And I don't think it's trivial. I do think it's meaningful and significant. And I was proud when the the lawmakers, when they presented the law in Salem, Oregon's capital, they mentioned this bill was in partnership with intersectional group.
That's amazing.
So they voiced that, and I didn't expect it. And I was nicely surprised, and it felt really good. The lawmakers considered my practice as a partner in in this bill. So just we all have our power. Everyone can do something. Nothing's too small.
Where can people find you if they want to work with you or learn more about what you do?
Yeah, my website is intersectional.group. And my LinkedIn is Zhou Fang 35. It's ZHOUFANG 35. You can find me there. And awesome. My email address is joe@intersectional.group.
And we will put all of that in the show notes and on the blog page so people can get informed and get in touch with you. And thank you so much, because really, truly, the work that you're doing, it lit such a fire under me in ways I didn't know the work could go. And so I'm so grateful to have met you and to have connected and communicated with you and be inspired by you. You definitely, you got the mojo, my friend.
And you too. You too. I'm so grateful. I'm really glad we connected. And I really look forward to having more, these kind of conversations and working together in the policy space, in community. So let's all get paid.
That's right. What a good 4 words. Let's all get paid. I had to count it in my head. Now, remember, let's all get paid is the way we're going to end this. One of the ways that this podcast could potentially get paid is if you subscribe, if you share it with your friends, if you rate it, if you review it and write a written review. That is the way these algorithms work. Apparently, they do not tell people to listen to you until people are already listening to you. So help us out, check us out, check out the websites, and we will talk to you next time. Wait, Hold Up What is brought to you by the women at Eliminate Girl Hate. We are edited and mixed by the good people at Epiphany Recording Studio. Make sure to subscribe to get notified of new episodes and support our program. To To learn more about the work we are doing, get resources to help you and/or your business, please visit us at eliminategirlhate.com. And, of course, don't forget to follow us on social media. You can find us at Instagram at wait.holdup.what and eliminate_girl_hate. As always, your support means everything to us, and it is the way that we can continue to make positive and uplifting program that supports women and girls around the world. Thank you. We are sponsored by Epiphany Recording Studio. Creativity needs to flow freely if you want to reach that aha moment that we're all looking for. At Epiphany Recording Studio, their goal is to create space that takes full advantage of those moments. From podcast and video production to music creation, you get the support you need to create compelling stories with a competitive sound. Your ideas can flow freely because they partner with you free of judgment, ready to be vulnerable, do the work, and make your projects look and sound their best. So let Epiphany Recording Studio help you reach your artistic vision by visiting them today at epiphanyrecordingstudio.com. Tell them Dawn sent you. How many times have you heard the words workplace and culture used together and found yourself rolling your eyes at the thought? Believe me, I'm with you. I'll be honest, as I record this, I just rolled my eyes. That's because the word culture has become homogenized in such a way that they actually had us believing ping pong tables and pizza were symbolic of a good place to work. COVID changed that. Remote work was a success in the eyes of many, and as such, our ideas of what constitutes a good workplace culture have changed, and it boils down to one crucial element: equity. Now, don't you roll your eyes again on me. It's true. The expectation of employees is that they have a work environment and culture that works for them, regardless of who they are. No more cookie-cutter swag and Pizza Hut deliveries, mandatory after-hours happy hours, and all of the other things they do to make us feel like we're a family. This is especially true for women. Remote work gave many more hours in the day, the flexibility to feel more productive and present, and a choice in how and what style of work is best for who they are and what they do. This is at the core of what equity means, because the old way was made for one group of people. And this is where Eliminate Girl Hate comes in. We help create safe and equitable spaces for girls and women, and we help the companies that employ them be more profitable in the process. Not rolling your eyes anymore, are you? Check us out at eliminategirlhate.com. Use code WAITHOLDUPWHAT in your contact form for a free consultation call and see how we can help you and your business.